Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1970s.
Ghost, that's a rather sticky one, isn't it? I'm not quite certain what you mean. I'm never quite certain what I mean. We are invited to believe when anybody asks me a question like that. I'm not even quite certain what I'm being invited to disbelieve.
This was episode 231, recorded December 22nd, 2024.
Gruesome Magazine.
I am your host, Doc Rotten, and this podcast is about horror films released between 1970 and 1979. Each episode, my co-host and I will tackle another classic or not so classic film from this wondrous, groovy, gory, and influential decade. And occasionally, we'll tackle weird crap like this that we're doing tonight, which stick around and we'll tell you all about. But first, let me introduce my host, starting off with Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, and trust me to pick weird crap and do it in a weird way.
Yep, you got to double down on the wig. Also joining us tonight is Bill Mulligan, writer, director, special effects guru, and all-around nice guy. How you doing, Bill?
I'm fine. I'm in Florida enjoying some warm weather. I think it's pretty unlikely it'll be a white Christmas.
Oh, my God. 100 things just came to mind. And I can't say a single one of them. Also joining us is the one and only Monsieur Jadund. He's a comic artist and co-host of Decades of Horror, the Classic Era, and the 80s. How you doing, sir?
I'm freezing my jingle bells off.
Jingle bells, jingle bells.
Really?
Freezing right off.
Yeah. For here it is.
What's the temperature?
So,
I don't know. It's
so
cold.
his name isn't Sweaty, it's Frosty. He wants you to see his Frosty Balls.
I think it's 27 degrees in my hometown.
I think it was the high was like 30. Yeah, so it's.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's the high.
34 here.
I was going to say that's the high in Iowa in June, isn't it? So,
Probably a balmy 60 here.
It varies. I mean, it could be 60 tomorrow, and it could be 10 below.
That was the overnight. Today was a high of 45.
yeah,
So
didn't feel it. Didn't feel it. All right. Well, we are covering a 3 of the episodes that aired in the UK. Ghost Story for Christmas. Yeah, it's some of the things I think stateside we probably don't know so much, but a lot of our friends overseas have been recommending this quite a bit, right, Jeff?
Yes, and there is a little confusion because I believe that the annual episode that they did on the BBC for the 70s was called A Ghost Story for Christmas. However, they have just released these on Blu-rays, or I don't know if it was just or not. And there's a volume 1 and volume 2, and they call them Ghost Stories for Christmas. So that's I might have written them in more than one way on here.
Okay.
And they weren't all part of A Ghost Story for Christmas either.
Right, and we'll get into all that. But if you want to get your UK horror fix, I think this is going to be a very special episode for you. It's going to be a little unusual as we do 3 intros for the 3 episodes Jeff has picked out of, I guess, the decade's worth of episodes that played. But before we do, Jeff also has something to say about Play Now Media.
So we are partnering with Play Now Media on some of their streaming channels. And in particular, Decades of Horror of the 1970s is on the Wicked Horror TV channel. And Play Now Media is giving us a promo code that we can give to people. If you are a first-time subscriber to one of their channels, you can use DOH70, capital D, capital O, capital H, 70, and you will get the first pay period on your subscription will be 20% off. So if you sign up for a monthly subscription, which is $6.99 a month, you will get $1.40 off. But if you sign up for a yearly subscription, which is $49.99, you will get $10 off. That's the one I would do. And guess what? You could do all 3 of the the main ones that were on Classic Sci-Fi Movie Channel, the Classic Horror Movie Channel, and Wicked Horror TV Channel. You could subscribe to all of those. You could. Anyway, also you have to subscribe through the website. So if you want to know the website address, it's probably easiest. Just go to gruesomemagazine.com, look at one of the blogs for one of our 70s episodes, and that website will be there.
And it is packed jammed with lots of good stuff.
Every week I go into the Classic Sci-Fi Movie Channel, and I look at the stuff that says soon to leave, and I just start playing them. And then the next day I play the next one, and the next day I play the next one. And anyway, because I don't want to miss them.
Don't want to miss them.
Anyway, it's good stuff. So check them out, and they've upgraded their app, so all that stuff is good. Lots of the stuff that we do are on there. Subscribe.
All right, do that, and if you have subscribed and you're watching this episode, reach out to us. We'd love to know that you're doing so.
Yeah.
All right, or even if you haven't subscribed, you just happen to be watching us. Anyways, let's jump into this. So the first one is Whistle and I'll Come for You, which was the inspiration, if I understand this correct. Bill, no, not Bill, but Jeff is going to come in here and give us some background on this. But so it was in a show called Omnibus, and then would inspire the annual Ghost Story for Christmas. But this one is directed by Jonathan Miller. It's written by M.R. James. The story is Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad. Ghost Stories of an Antiquary from 1904. And Jonathan Miller did the adaptation. The cast includes Michael Hordern, Ambrose Coggle, George Woodbridge, Nora Gordon, and Frida Dowie. Production company is BBC. It aired May 7th, 1968, taking a little bit of creative freedom there. And the synopsis is: a skeptical professor on vacation in Norfolk finds a cursed whistle. So, Jeff, give us some background on this, and then let us know when you first watched it.
Yeah, and apparently this is kind of an out of the ordinary thing for this Omnibus show, because they usually did like music related stuff or something. This isn't their typical fare. And it is the inspiration for this series, A Ghost Story for Christmas. So that's why we're including it, plus all of the people that have requested it. Technically, it should be a classic here, but I just decided to kind of pick 3 of these, which are all now on Shudder. So y'all ought to be over there looking at them before they roll off after Christmas here. Wes Diorio and Nick Gadman both requested this, and I know that other people have. So here we are. And actually, this is not my favorite of them, but I do like this a lot. Most of the stories in the series are M.R. James, except one of the ones we're doing today is by Charles Dickens. So I like this one a lot. It's very atmospheric. The lead character, played by Michael Hordern, is he's kind of a bumbling. He's an intellectual, but he just mumbles a lot to himself. Like he mumbles out loud what his brain is doing, and so other people kind of have a hard time following what he's doing. But I think it's got some really cool stuff. There's some really eerie scenes on the beach. He goes out for trudges on the beach. He's on a vacation and comes across this graveyard, small cemetery, and finds this whistle buried and digs it up and takes it back and cleans it up and blows out of it. And then boom, stuff happens. Happens.
What a shocker.
And I think it's eerie and creepy as heck. So I'll stop there because I want to hear what everybody else has to say about this.
All right, Bill Mulligan, you're first up. What did you think of Whistle and I'll Come to You?
This was my least favorite of the 3, with a certain caveat. This is one of the most unlikable protagonists I have ever stumbled across, and I've seen both Downfall and Caligula. So this guy is like the nightmare dinner partner or guy who sits next to you on the bus. He's a upper class twit. He's not half as clever as he thinks he is, but he couldn't be. The kind of person who someone says something like, there are more things in heaven and earth that are dreamed of in your philosophy. It's like, no, I think it's actually, I think it's there are more things in my philosophy that are dreamed of by heaven and earth. Ha! By Jove, good one. And then he repeats it to himself. He's like, oh, I need to write this down because this is going right on my tombstone. Well, not fast enough, pal. He's just, and also this is okay. I'm okay with slow burns. But the way you described the plot of this, you really had to say, before he gets to the part about the grave and the whistle, we get to watch him wash his face, brush his teeth, pluck his nose hairs, sit alone, read a. I mean, wow, my God! I'm like, is something going to happen here? There's a lot of buildup, and it's a buildup of a person I'm not too fond of. All that said, this has one of the best special effects I think I've ever seen. When we see this animated shroud sort of coming toward him down the beach, I'm looking at this, and I was just about asleep by this point, and I'm like, holy damn, I have no idea how they did that. This is 1968, and they managed to make a really creepy, convincing. I'm not sure if it's green screen. I think it might just be wires. I don't know, but it's obviously a practical effect because that's all we had in 1968, and it's really well done. It's good. It doesn't necessarily look like a ghost. It could just be a shroud blowing in the wind in a really specifically horrific way. I was totally drawn in, and when we finally get to the ending where this guy is terrified, the fact that we've built him up as such a douche nozzle, to see him brought down low and just all of his reasoning, all of his philosophy, everything that he has tossed away, and he's just an absolute abject terror. I'm like, well done, well done. So long, slow fuse, but it does build to a pretty terrific climax.
There you go. Chad Hunt, what did you think of this?
I'm exactly with Bill on this one. This was 40 minutes of the most boring walks down the beach, walking through the woods, eating breakfast, eating dinner. This guy ate and ate and ate through the whole thing. It was so boring. And I was ready to just cave his skull in with something if he mumbled one more thing. Just one more thing, Doc. I was ready to do that. Only for it to at the end for that. It was just one of those magnificent scares ever. I mean, I wasn't expecting it. You know what I mean? I expected maybe a book to fly off a shelf or something cheap, something that wasn't really gonna. I was impressed by the scare because I wasn't expecting that kind of scare from what they had built up so far. He'd heard noises and things like that during this, and little creaks and groans and footsteps and this and stuff like that. But so I thought it was just going to be something else like that, answering him back or whatever. And then that it wasn't worth the whole 40 minutes of waiting for it. That's for sure. But yeah, I hated this guy, and I hated there's slow burns, and then there's this. At least some slow burns, as long as they're still telling the story. This is just repeated actions, walking through the woods over and over and over again, and eating and stuff like that. So this is my least favorite of the three. And so I'm kind of with Bill on it. But the scare was kind of good. It really was.
Yeah, I'm not with any of you. This might, not only is this the least favorite of these three, this is the least favorite thing I've watched all year. I hate this episode. Jeff's ears had to have been burning off. I was cussing his name. I did not enjoy anything about this. I did not enjoy the two things you guys mentioned. I thought they were stupid and lame. This thing did not connect with me at all. I don't know why we watched it. No, I'm sorry. I did not like this. And there's nothing in the 70s that has ever invoked this reaction for me. Even the worst crap that is barely watchable, I found more interesting than this garbage. I'm sorry. I know people love this, and I know people have been recommending. I know you, Jeff. I know you really like it. I know you guys found the scares, but not me. I am so glad you did pick 3, Jeff, because those were really great. The other 2. This one,
Well,
I don't
okay.
ever want to watch this thing again.
So for me, when I was watching it, there's actually quite a bit that goes on during that period. So the first time he goes out, he walks across that grave. It's covered with ivy and stuff like that, And there's a couple times where he sees somebody back down the beach standing staring at him, and he's not sure what the hell's going on with that. Then the next time he goes out, that's when he finds the grave. Now it's the same grave. It's got all the same figures on it and everything, but it's totally clean. And instead of in the middle of this patch, it's over on the edge where the whistle is exposed. Then he takes the whistle out, and it shows him sitting there, and he sits down and eats his lunch and lays out his Kleenex and all that stuff. But I kind of like that. I took that I found that interesting as a way that they were living their life then, So yeah, and he watches, they draw a bath, they ask him, and then there's kind of a weird thing where they say, so which bed do you want made up? Because they're both rumpled. They're both so that brings a little twinge in, like, why are both the beds look like they've been slept in when he only slept in one? And then, hey, I'm explaining this now.
Yeah.
I know you're just as boring as the show was. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, go away then.
Yeah.
This is I'm talking now. If you're not interested, then do something else.
Wow. Okay, we got a shit fest here. Come on, Jeff. Put him up.
Hey, I didn't make any noises while you were saying what you thought. Okay. So,
all right.
So,
bye.
And then
hello.
he has these discussions with the other guy, and at lunch they have a couple of little discussions. But then when he first blows the whistle, then it makes the wind kind of comes up, and you hear this kind of whistling sound, and that starts to bother him a little bit. And then there's this kind of whispering going on. So that's where he starts getting kind of funked up. So it kept my attention. Do I understand where you're coming from? Absolutely.
I think they could have cut some time out. Now, I do sort of understand the idea. They're showing this very mundane life, and then something inexplicable and supernatural enters into it. This guy is completely unprepared for that. He sees the world as something, that's pretty easy to navigate because he's superior in his thinking and rational. And that's exactly the sort of person who would be most affected by anything here. I just think it took a little too long. Now, okay, ghosts are my least favorite, my least terrifying monster. I've never thought ghosts were scary. Unless they're, you take them and it's like, oh, these aren't just ghosts. These are poltergeists. They'll throw a knife through your head. Okay, knives are scary. But a lot of people are creeped out by ghosts. Just, a ghost story doesn't have to have much more than a ghost, and people are genuinely chilled by it. And I think those folks might find this story chilling. And you're right. You're saying the things that were there, and they completely went over my head. Because I guess I just when it comes to ghosts, I'm like, okay, you better start doing some serious poltergeist scares here to keep my interest. A book slightly off shelf or ivy not on the gravestone would probably go right over my head, which it did. I did notice the person, the figure standing on the beach, and everything. But again, I thought once he foolishly blew that whistle. I don't know why he would do that. I'm going to take something dirty from a grave and put it in my mouth. No, this person probably died of smallpox.
Well, you would think that a person that who's supposed to be so smart and intellectual would deduce that, hey, since I blew that whistle, some strange things are starting to happen to me. And he really didn't. He ignored the person down on the beach standing there. He ignored the noises and just covered his head up in his bed. He knew they were there, but you would think he would say, "What's going on here?" You know, or try to delve into what might be going on, and he didn't. And I think that would have filled in a lot of that time where he was just not doing anything.
Now, we don't know much about this guy. Am I wrong, or because I was trying to read up on this, at least one review, and I haven't read the story, so I don't know for sure, seemed to imply that either the original story or maybe another remake of this had some elements that were completely missing, like his wife is suffering from dementia and she's in a nursing home somewhere. There's a lot of background about this particular character.
I hate to say this, but I'm pretty sure I read the story. I read collections of M.R. James, but it's been a long time, and I don't know that I remember this. But yeah, and I don't know what his specialty in college is. Some weird thing too, so we don't know what I didn't even understand it. I looked it up and went, I don't know what that is. But also, I think in the story he's not as bumbling or so disturbed in his communications. He's much more specific and direct communication. So
the way you're saying it, it's almost like the ghost was manipulating him into doing what it wanted.
Well, the inscription on the whistle in Latin, when translated, said, "Who is this who is coming?" So it was sort of a warning, who is this who is coming? When you blow the whistle, it's pretty out there. But at any rate,
yay! Hey, oh well, I said,
yay!
I said,
can I come out of the timeout corner now?
Yeah, you're.
Well, I didn't mean it literally. I just meant,
you did mean it literally.
I meant go read something on the internet while you're sitting there instead of
look up some porn or something.
Yeah. So we're done. I think. Any other comments on this?
Nah.
I still didn't like it.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm going to be much more quiet about it.
It's my least favorite of the three. I would agree with you. In fact, out of all the ones I've watched and
I know you picked these. You probably didn't watch them before you picked them.
Oh, I did.
You did? Okay. Then that's worse.
He's got no excuse.
Well, I think because you have no idea. We've had people requesting us for years.
But
I kid you not.
Jeff, in your
for
defense,
classic era. So
in your defense, also, when I was researching these and looking for pictures and stuff, there's an awful lot of people out there that consider that a classic.
They consider it a classic?
Yeah.
They absolutely do.
Oh,
that's
I don't
the thing
understand.
that inspired this. So
yeah.
Well, I
people that like ghost stories are sort of their own breed.
Well, did we talk about the person that wrote it?
M.R. James.
M.R. James. Yeah.
Okay.
No, and except for I think almost everything in this show is M.R. James, except for the one that we did, the Signalman. That's Charles Dickens.
Dickens. So we should move on to that here before.
Yeah, because I don't know who M.R. James is, but
oh wow,
English
ghost story writer, but he did that was his secondary profession.
I'd never heard of him.
I mean, I got that much before.
Wow, that's surprising to me, but
yeah,
okay.
I didn't know anything about him until these. This one here makes me far more encouraged to read stuff of his. Here we go. Lost Hearts: A Ghost Story for Christmas, directed by Lawrence Gordon Clark. It's written by M.R. James. 1895. Robin Chapman did the dramatization. I like that instead of adaptations, dramatization. Cast includes Simon Gibbs Kent, Joseph O'Connor, James Miller, Susan Richards, Christopher Davis, Michelle Foster, and Karina Wyeth. I have a film. I bet it's Wyeth. I bet the E is something. Well, doesn't matter. Anyway, production company, BBC. Filming locations, UK, Broxby Mausoleum and Harrington Hall. I like the names of both of those. Air date is December 25th, 1973. A young orphan Stephen is sent to live with his strange, much older cousin at his remote country house. Once there, Stephen experiences terrible dreams in which he sees a young boy and girl. And I said that backwards, but that's what I do. Jeff.
That was
Oh.
them there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was them. That's the young girl and boy.
There they are.
Jeff, tell us about this and why you picked it.
Well,
when you first saw it and all that good stuff.
Goes to stay with this. Well, I started watching these and I was trying to pick the ones that I thought would have the most impact, and I was trying to guess which ones you guys would like the most. I haven't watched all of them. I think I have 2 left, but every one I watched I thought was worthy. This one was there's a lot going on here, I think, that's has become traditional in horror things on eternal life. How do you maintain eternal life? So that's what this strange cousin, with emphasis on the word strange,
He's so bizarre.
Is as we find out as time goes on, he is harvesting the hearts of youngsters who are 12 years old, and that's what's going to give him eternal life, and they have to be on this certain day. And the ghosts that this kid is seeing always have their arms crossed with their hands on their shoulders, which I didn't notice at first, but later I realized that's because they're covering up the hole in their chest where their heart should have been. You find that out later. So I just spoiled the hell out of it if you've never seen this.
You sure did.
So this kid thinks, this is a great thing. I've come to live with my cousin, and he lives in this grand English manor, and he's got a butler and a cook and but he keeps seeing these weird ghosts and this rustlings and stuff. So anyway, I thought it was great. I thought I love the ending too. Without rambling too much, I'll stop there.
Bill, what did you think of this one, sir?
Wow, this was to me a definite step up. Now, this one maybe has the opposite issue. It's predictable. I didn't think there were any real surprises in this one, but that's okay because this reminded me so much of the only time I actually do like ghost stories, which is around a campfire with a bunch of kids in the woods for God knows what reason. Our parents probably sent us off there because they thought it would be good for us. And you start telling ghost stories. This is a great campfire ghost story. You've got a young child, much like us, around this campfire, sent to live with a creepy guy. And this guy is creepy. The guy from Lemony Snicket would look at this guy and like, whoa, you are just creepy. He's so creepy, old British guy, more hair in his eyebrows than I have on the top of my head. That just a caricature almost. He really does look like a caricature. Everyone there is weird. You've got the ghosts, and the ghosts have that creepy element. Every ghost story around a campfire has that one thing. In this case, it would be the long fingernails and holding their hands. All of this designed so that at some point in the night, after we've all gone to bed, we pick the one small victim who's going to be, we're going to torment and show up at the camp, open up the tent thing with our hands. If we thought enough to get some fingernails, we'll put those on too. It's good. It's creepy. And I could see this story traumatizing a bunch of kids.
Oh my
England.
gosh, yes.
I'll bet there are people in England now going to therapists trying to figure out why they have night terrors, forgetting that in 1973, they watched this. They snuck downstairs and looked through the bars of the banister watching this thing. And that's it. You're doomed. So this was a fun ghost story. It had a good ending. It had a couple of little, a little tiny bit of gore, just enough to, as much gore as you could get away with in 1973. It was neat. It was, and I liked it. It was definitely more involving. I mean, I had to wake my wife up after the last one and said, let's give this one a shot. And as soon as the creepy little ghost kids show up, she's like, okay, this is more my speed. And this is a fun story and probably my favorite of the 3. I don't know that it's the best film in terms of made. I think the third one probably has, better acting and, better composition and shots and everything. But if I had to just pick one story to show a bunch of people who may not be horror fanatics, but let's do a ghost story for Christmas, this would be the one.
Wow,
really
you're
liked
gonna scare the crap out of those people that don't watch
Well,
ghost stories regular.
I like traumatized little kids.
Chad, what about you, sir? What do you think of this one?
This one I really liked a lot, and I liked it because when I was a kid, my mom and her sisters, when they would get together, this is the kind of stories they would tell each other to scare each other. And I used to sneak down and listen from the hallway,
Oh wow.
you know, because they didn't want the little kids in there getting scared of all these stories. But I would sneak down in the hallway, and this is the kind of story they would tell. It's very much one of those "I want my golden arm" type of horror stories, you know. And so I enjoyed this one a lot because it reminded me of that. Little ghostly kids with big long claw fingernails that you don't know why they have big long fingernails. A little bit of gore where their hearts are missing.
Oh my gosh, I was surprised by that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, and they looked creepy the way they moved with the back and forth motion. Especially the little boy, was just very creepy. And they this warlock, whatever he was, cousin of theirs, older guy, was just over the top. Right out of a storybook, a fairy tale or something, or a Walt Disney book or something like that, you know, or a Grimm's fairy tale. You know, I'm going to eat their hearts and live forever, you know, that kind of thing. So this was a really, really good one. I loved the nanny in there as well. She was good, and the manservant guy, great acting, great people just being freaked out about weird stuff going on, and the two little kids were really they were really creepy. They weren't like just like the little kids that go you know, like some little ghosts do in movies like that. They were really creepy in their demeanor, the way they moved and everything. So this was a very enjoyable one. I really like this one a lot.
Yeah, this one is miles better. I really enjoyed this one. I think I'm with Bill that this one is definitely my favorite, but I do believe that the next one that we're going to cover is probably better made. But I don't think that matters for the effect, because the visuals of these kids is haunting. Now this is
a phrase.
Yeah, and no pun intended. But when we were doing ghost stories for Christmas, this is the kind of story I imagined, right? That I imagined it would be like these kind of stories. And it felt like a kind of EC, but it, you know, of course it precedes EC for what?
Yeah.
Half a decade or more. But the visuals on the kids with, you know, their like, didn't they have like little gray blue makeup on too?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wanted to make sure.
Makeup.
Yeah, it did feel Dawn of Dead makeup. I was heading there, but they felt, you know, they were presented in a way that really gets under your skin, gives you some nice goosebumps. And then you mentioned it earlier, Chad, but there's a reveal with what's happening with them, and it was far more graphic, especially for like a BBC show. You know what I would expect, especially in the 70s, because it's not Tom Baker running around with his curly hair. This is in funny little robots. This is actually, it's gory and creepy. And Jeff, you're right. This probably gave a lot of people some serious messed up drama for the rest of their lives. Because this I was creeped out. I'm a grown man, and I was creeped out. It was very effective. And even when they're just talking about, I'm calling it a mandolin, but it's not a mandolin. What was the instrument?
Hurdy-gurdy.
The hurdy-gurdy. Yes, I was like, hurdy-gurdy.
Awesome.
That's a song, right? What is that? I never realized what a hurdy-gurdy was. Yeah. And so I had to look up what hurdy-gurdy was.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite instruments, actually.
Yeah. And, you know, just for me, it really started kicking in when the cousin started to reveal he knew what was going on. Because at first it was just like the boy was being haunted, right? And then we start getting the underbelly of what's actually happening. And that's really when it starts getting less like what you guys are explaining as a campfire, and more like a sophisticated ghost story. And yeah, and then I really, really enjoyed this one.
Yeah. There is one element I'm a
It
little
got me.
confused about, which is that the cousin, and it's strange to me that he's a cousin.
I didn't realize he was a cousin until we
doing
read
all
this.
this to achieve immortality, and the guy looks older than fossilized owl poop.
He started late.
I guess it's clearly not.
The main take is that's the way cousins are.
It doesn't work. He's killing these kids needlessly. He's aging as fast or faster than anyone. But look at that face. Look at that. That really
that mouth of his, man, was cracking me up. It's just he's got like a comic.
Yeah.
Doc, you said EC.
Almost Grinch like crinkles up.
Yeah, I was thinking Jim Carrey, like almost a Jim Carrey rubber face.
Chad, can't you imagine Graham Ingalls drawing something like
this? Big time.
I mean, it seems almost too exaggerated to be real.
Yeah. I feel bad because we didn't put these up at all, but these were the boring scenes. And
I mean, you got to say this is beautifully shot. The black and white is gorgeous. Yeah. And I still say that middle shot. I don't know. I'm
that's that thing billowing there on the
I'll get a letter saying, "You idiot! It was just a tarp with some wire."
Yeah, I didn't feel that on that anyway. But I'm glad you were showing it now because I wanted to get another look at it.
And I just added this one. That's the other guy that he had dinner and a walk with, and
there are more things.
Yeah. This guy's just trying to keep the conversation going, but good luck.
Yeah, he asked him if he believes in ghosts, and he gets that malarkey that Chad said as a quote at the all right.
You'd have to define belief. You'd have to define ghosts. You'd have to define do. Oh, shut up! I'm sorry I said anything to you.
Back to Lost Hearts, though.
There they are.
Yeah. And when they're doing, there's a thing too where they're doing like a little dance to the hurdy-gurdy that just creeped the hell out of me.
Oh yeah,
it's such a simple. I mean, this just shows you don't have to go all out. You don't have to be Tom Savini to be effective when you're doing a horror story. Helps if you are Tom
the fingernails.
Savini, this is the simplest makeup job. Long fingernails. Just the fact the kids and these actors deserve credit because what really makes it work is that they're off. They're acting in a strange way, but they sell the idea that what they're doing makes perfect sense. And that's I like that with ghost stories. Hey, Chad, you were joking. Where is my golden arm? I mean, that's what really makes some of these things work. You don't know why they are doing what they're doing, but they do, and they're not going to tell you.
So, like I said, they got their hands. We don't. I think that shot that at the beginning with the title card had them doing that. And they're like that throughout the whole show. You can't see their chest until the end. Then you see ribs and, some organs and things. And then they cut out that guy's heart. And the next time you see them, they're standing out there with their arms, they're just waving at the kid as they go,
Well, that's like a lot of but Doc brought up EC Comics and stuff. That's a lot of the EC Comics. Speaking on what Bill said too, a lot of times the killer would come back or the victim would come back from the dead. You didn't have any idea how or why they came back from the dead. They just did.
Yeah.
And they would, get revenge on whoever wronged them at the end of each story.
It's very much Old Testament, eye for an eye, literally.
Yeah. Even Creepshow did that. Creepshow.
Yeah.
You don't know where those roaches came from. You don't know where the meteor came from. You don't know any of that stuff.
Yeah, you don't need to know. You want to know why? Shut up. That's why.
Yeah.
So, and he has, the cousin has, I'm not sure you can really see it, but he has like a ceremonial robe and a ceremonial dagger there that he's, it's got gold lame all over it or something. Anyway, before we move on to the next story, which is by Charles Dickens, before we get all of our British followers up in arms.
He makes good apple cider.
M.R. James, Montague Rhodes James, was an English medievalist scholar and author. And his scholarly work was of the highest order. I mean, he discovered things that other people hadn't discovered. But these stories he read to friends and select students at Eton and Cambridge as Christmas Eve entertainments, and received wider attention when they were published in the collections Ghost Stories of an Antiquary and More Ghost Stories of an Antiquary and A Thin Ghost and Others, A Warning to the Curious and Other Ghost Stories. So one of the ghost tales, from the 70s is A Warning to the Curious. So we had a couple people suggest, but I didn't. I liked it, but I didn't think it was good. It wasn't the best of the ones I watched. So it has, and very early on what is going to happen, and it just stretches all out till it happens. So that's good. But so I'm a little bit surprised. It's nothing against you guys. I'm just surprised you hadn't heard of him, because he's a very well-known British ghost story writer.
I might have heard of him, but I forgot a lot of things.
Well, I've got, I have tons of short story collections, and one of his stories, The Ash Tree, is put in a lot of them.
It does sound familiar.
And they made one of that, but I liked it a lot, but I wasn't sure it was the right one. So anyway.
I want to mention the young man in the middle, our protagonist.
Yes.
I thought he did a really good job, because kids in this role can often be precocious or just annoying, and you can't wait for them to die. But he really did a good job. He was a great protagonist. We cared what happened to him. And so good job. I'm sorry to say the actor who portrayed him did go on to do some other things, but died fairly young. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the guy died. This other guy, the cousin, is no longer with us, because I'm spitballing here. I think he's 127 in this role.
He looks like a young Michael York there.
Yeah.
That kid in the middle.
Oh, yeah. Well, this one is another one where they did everything's period. He's riding up in the coach, and he's got one of those top hats on.
10-gallon top hats.
Oh my God. Huge. But yeah, the kid does a good job of he starts off being sort of a shy, apprehensive about coming to this new house, and then he starts to get a little more comfortable, but then the weird stuff starts happening and he starts freaking out. I think he does a good job. And I'm not sure what was his name was Simon Gips Kent or Gips Kent.
Probably Gips, probably.
And the old guy is Joseph O'Connor.
Did anybody else? I have this feeling. I had a feeling of Let's Scare Jessica to Death tonally. Am I alone in that? Do you guys?
I'll have to think about it.
Well,
I mean, not story wise, but just tone.
One of the things I noticed about these stories is they were all very wet and foggy. I mean, moist. There was a lot of moist, and maybe
Moist
that's
doesn't
just,
help.
just a function of being in England. I guess you always think of the fog and stuff, but every one of them had a lot of fog.
Moist makes me draw up a little bit.
I mean, I get what you're saying too. England, there's a lot of decay. There, it's the climate. Things break down. Castles get, like stone tape and everything. It just feels like it's a constant struggle to keep everything from not getting moldy and rotten. And I just can't take my eyes off that guy's right eyebrow. I mean, look at it. It's like arching up. Like, I don't look sufficiently evil. Let my eyebrows just go for.
He was in Oliver, and he was in Gorgo, 1961.
Oh, geez.
The Dark Crystal. He was a narrator.
Every time I see Chad, you'll relate to this. Every time I see eyebrows like that, I think of Bernie Wrightson.
Yeah.
Because always
Bernie Wrightson could draw this guy's face. I can almost see it.
No, but I mean, he had the eyebrows. He had those eyebrows. If you ever saw him, you ever met him. All right, are we ready to move on to Signalman?
I think so.
All right. So this one is one of the later ones, right? So, 76.
Yeah.
All right. The Signalman, a ghost story for Christmas, directed by Lawrence Gordon Clark. written by Charles Dickens from a story from 1866. Andrew Davies did the adaptation. It cast includes Denham Elliott, yay, Bernard Lloyd, Reginald Jessup, and Carino Wyeth. Again, is that the same Carino Wyeth?
Yes.
Okay. Production company is still BBC. Filming location is the UK, Birchett Coppice Cutting and Tunnel Mouth, and Severn Valley Railway. The air date is December 26, 1976. And the synopsis: a very lonely signalman is visited by a stranger. Or you could say a stranger visits a lonely signalman. Either way works. Let's find out what we thought about this one. Jeff, you are up first. And explain why you picked this one as well.
I picked this one because I thought Denham Elliott was awesome. And I liked the setting. I felt like the setting was really creepy. You know, it was sort of claustrophobic in this train line in this valley with the tunnel into the side of the hill, and it was always moist.
God, you were the moist.
It was. I mean, the stuff was, and then this is his solitary existence. And he has to sit there. He's there all day long for, I don't even know exactly what it was he was supposed to do, except to check and make sure that, the trains weren't going to collide on the track and that the trains were switched at the right time or whatever, but you don't really see any of that. But there's these bells, and every once in a while a bell goes off and he has to get up and manipulate a couple things, and then he just sits down and he's done. So just that whole solitary thing, but then starting to see something over a period of time. It's been going on for a year, something like that. And trying to figure out what it is. What's it trying to tell me? What's going on? Where's the danger? What do I do? And then having this guy stroll along that is there to listen to him tell the story, right? So, and that one shot of there's a couple of scenes that are really freaky. One is the kind of alabaster white china guy screaming there by the side of the tunnel. Also, when the bride falls off and she's right there in the bottom.
That's actually Denham Elliott's face, the white face.
Yeah, there's a reason why.
Yeah.
And then also the scene of the crash where he goes into the tunnel and people are carrying people out, and this big column of smoke is coming out of the tunnel and rising up. It's just a great looking shot. I agree with you guys. I think this is the best shot, and I don't really know what the hell is going on, but I just thought it was great. Why is this happening to him? But
it's supernatural. So Mulligan.
Well, so this one I'd put in a sort of a separate genre of ghost stories, the impending doom. That you're being visited by the future or spirits or who knows what, and they're trying to warn you about something, but since they, for whatever reason, can't just write it down somewhere and explain it, they just give you little bits and pieces, and you're trying to put it together, and almost inevitably you screw it up, and you don't realize what it was all about until it's way too late. And then, so in that sense, I mean, this one was a little predictable in the sense that I had a pretty good idea who was not going to make it to the end. It's just, but it was really well made. And of course, Denham Elliott's a great actor and has that ability to, a lot of people remember him more from the Indiana Jones movies, that you kind of a little bit of comic relief. But he's got a mournful quality to him. He can play this doomed character and really get sympathy for it. I also thought the little conversation he had where he's just basically saying this, I kind of, when I was a young man, I didn't take work seriously or study seriously enough. So this is what I end up with. And there's such a tragedy in that this guy's been doing this menial job. This is just, God, this is hell. doing this job would be hell. And yet he's been doing it all this time and just seems profoundly lonely. And the only thing that's really kind of keeping him going there is this dread that there's something he's supposed to understand and he doesn't understand it. Neither do we until the very end. I thought it was really well done. It's not quite my idea of a ghost story, but it is. And a different, the middle one is my idea of a ghost story. Ghosts coming back, messing with you. And this one's a little bit different. So I like the variety of it and really, really well made, really well shot.
Yeah. Perfect. Chad.
Yes, I agree. This is a great story, and you really have to pay attention because there's a lot of pieces in there, a lot of dialogue that comes into play later. Especially, and it's coming from everywhere. It's coming from the stranger that visits. It's coming from the train engineers at the very end, explaining him doing that. And so you have to kind of really pay attention to what's going on. This whole little film is just cramped and just closed in. You have a feeling of just being closed in, and moist, as Jeff says. But it's it just adds to the tension that's going on. You don't necessarily know what's going on until the very end, and this little cramped space that they're in, and this everything is so close together, and he stands so close to the tracks when the train's going by that this tension just keeps building up as you find out more and more information until the very end. And Denham Elliott is amazing as always. You feel sorry for him. You feel the stranger sort of patronizes him a little bit, and you get the feeling, well, maybe this stranger's right. Maybe this guy's under a lot of pressure after doing this job for so long, and he's starting to hear and see things and all this. But it just turns out to be a great sort of a Christmas Carol-y type, Ghost of Christmas Future type thing, where
what you did there.
Somebody's there to warn him. And this is great. This is my favorite one out of all three.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just for the interaction between the two men and Denham Elliott's reactions and stuff like that to what's going on. I just found mesmerizing. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen.
Yeah, for me as well. I still like the Lost Lost Souls,
Lost Hearts.
Lost Hearts. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that one better just because of the type of story. I think what Bill was alluding to. But this one really gripped me more. I paid more attention to this one than I did the other two because the dialogue is so wonderful. And the actors, both actors, delivering the dialogue in such and the things that are happening, like with the bells that that go off and one hears, one doesn't, and stuff. So this is an example of captivating dialogue where I struggled with the dialogue that we were getting in like the first one, by comparison, if you will.
The first one's called Undiscernible Dialogue.
Sure.
Yeah, you better have the subtitles on for that one.
Yeah, mumble. But this one was gripping in its dialogue, and I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the, like you said, impending doom. There was definitely something going to happen. You kind of realized what was going on, but the imagery that he would see and the implications of what he was afraid of, because at the beginning he was wondering who the stranger was, because he actually said something he had heard before, and was wondering. He even asked if he felt like it was a supernatural influence on him. I think he literally said something along those lines. I mean, the word supernatural's in there. The rest of it I'm paraphrasing. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the we get like 3 different kind of catastrophes, right? He wasn't very good at his job. It seemed like everything went wrong. But there were some really creepy imagery, and like the one shot of the ghostly image, which when you look at the shot, it definitely looks like Denham Elliott. I don't know if I caught that when I was watching it, but the whole thing, and of course, it has that kicker at the end, which is also kind of an EC trait, isn't it, Chad? Wouldn't you say? The little kicker dialogue at the end.
Yeah.
In a more
very Tales from the Crypt kind of.
Yeah. Not. Yeah, that would be more in the thriller one that they did instead of the horror one, right? But I didn't realize. I've never really considered what the influences on EC Comics were, and I think now I know. It's really these old ghost stories, these British ghost stories from the turn of the decade, right, or just prior to the turn of the century, I should say. Sorry, in the 1800s, late 1800s, that I guess paved the way. And then you add, I guess, some of the, as it matured, I say use that term loosely, but into the pulp stuff. You blend all that together and you end up with DC Comics. But the structure is so evident in here, and I really, really enjoyed that from that perspective. But for me, this is all about our two actors more so than everything else, because we relate to the visitor, right? We're kind of on the visitor's chair, right? And
he is us.
Yeah, because we don't really find out much about him. We find out more about the Signalman, which is fair. It's the title. And it really helps to have this character that we can kind of enter into the story with. And it drew, at least for me, it drew me very close to what was happening between the two of them. And I'm trying to figure out, and maybe you guys can chime in, what the emotion is I'm feeling at the end of this. Because we're leading all this doom, but then when the tragedy happens at the end, what are we feeling? How would you describe what we're feeling at the end when he, fate finds him, if you will? It was a strange feeling for me.
Yeah, but it was just like, it was him. It was him. He did it. I was confused at first, but then I didn't know what was, if it was a ghost or if it was some supernatural force was trying to warn him through these other accidents and everything. I guess that he's next. This is going to happen to you, and it did happen to him. So I don't know if it's a feeling. It's not a feeling of relief, because I didn't feel relieved.
No,
I didn't feel.
There's no pathos or anything like that.
Yeah, it's hard to describe what your feeling is. The feeling of, fate. You can't escape it. It's just going to run you over.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was this the inevitable consequence of him being on duty when they had that crash, or what? I really didn't follow the connections there, but it was something was coming for him sooner or later, and
it was getting closer and closer.
It reminds me of the story. A lot of times these stories of you're given a warning, it almost always ends up that the warning just makes you do the thing that causes the thing that you were warned about.
Yeah.
If the Terminator hadn't gone back in time to kill John Connor, there would have been no John Connor. So, way to go, Terminator.
Yeah.
Well, and
that's hilarious.
Yeah, the guy running at the end, the visitor, the stranger, he kind of figures out what's going on. I think he hears when Denham Elliott, when the signalman sees the specter, there's this weird sort of droning noise in the bell. And this guy hears it clear back wherever it is he's staying, and he's running to try to get there and warn him. But so you got some, this is, you talked about it, Chad, being kind of small or tight or
claustrophobic.
Everything's cramped. Everything.
Yeah. Cramped. Yeah.
Yeah. It just feels like, I don't know if it was very like an Ouroboros, where a snake eating its own tail type of story.
The very steep hills with this tunnel.
Steep hills, so
and
you're
this
stuck in
tiny
this
little
valley
thing.
and got the tunnel. That's no fun in this tiny house. Yeah, it's
The only way down was that treacherous path that he showed the stranger how to get down, where you'd look like you'd break your neck anyway going down that. But there's no moral. I don't know what the moral of the story would even be, but because usually when a ghost is involved, it's revenge driven or it's something like this, a warning type.
Well, this is
thing.
more prophetic, right?
Yeah, and this
is more of a prophecy.
But usually the protagonist is doing something bad or doing something not on the straight and narrow, and these warnings come to put him back on the straight and narrow. So I don't know what the purpose of him being haunted was,
Well, I think,
or what the warning was for.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like what Bill said, because he's been seeing this figure of somebody with his left arm across his eyes and his right arm waving and yelling hello below there, and
but he never saw that because that was the engineer after he had been killed that was doing
right.
He goes, I was doing this.
But he said that's what he was seeing. That's what the specter was doing. He described that.
He sure did. Yeah.
So
and maybe that's a signal for look out, or I don't.
Well, whatever.
Yeah,
but that
made it. Is that the signalman? Is that really
made
the
it so
signalman?
that when it really happened, he was so intrigued and trying to figure out what the hell was going on that the train ran him over.
Because he had heard that or seen it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, when we first see him, he's standing out there in the middle of the tracks, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's often. I mean, that seemed like a bad decision in the first.
Yeah, I'm like, guy, dude, the trains will sneak up on you. Stop it. So yeah, here's, and I thought Denham Elliott, I thought was absolutely fabulous in this. I mean, the expressions on his face show an amount of dread and stress or distress that are just phenomenal.
He is haunted. He's haunted in a very different way, right? He's haunted by this fear of what he's seen. This ghostly apparition that he's seeing and what it means and everything. So which isn't like a typical haunting. It's not like it's not a spook or a ghost, right? It's more of a like a vision or seeing into the future. It's definitely not like Christmas Carol in that respect, because Christmas Carol, they're there, like you were saying earlier, Chad, they're there to
put him on the straight and narrow.
Put him on the straight and narrow. This here is just like, don't stand in the tracks. It's kind of thing. So I don't know.
That was part of the job description, though. Stay off the tracks.
Well, that's what I'm screaming at the end. Tell me where the danger is. Tell me what the danger is. Tell me what I should do. And it doesn't happen. Another line he has that I thought kind of hit me was being out there. There's so little to do with so much depending on it.
And these two episodes, the Lost Ghost and this one, are both directed by the same individual, but they look so different. Yeah. Right? Because aren't they both directed by
right. I think he directs all. I think he directs all of them. I'm double checking here.
Well, he doesn't direct the first one. The first one's directed by
but that's not part of the series.
But yeah, but the point still holds is that the two that he did direct that we watched for this episode are tonally so different.
Yeah, the first one is open. That it feels, I don't know, it has an open feeling to me, like this could happen anywhere, everywhere. This can only happen here, I feel like. And the tone is claustrophobic, and it's enclosed, and everything just happens right in this little area, and that's what's different for me from the other one. Is the other one is more of it's not as claustrophobic, and it's not as enclosed. And
we should probably mention this is not written by M.R. Janes. This is from one of the greatest novelists of all time, Charles Dickens, who one doesn't think of as a ghost story guy until you remember he wrote A Christmas Carol,
Christmas Carol,
which is
yeah.
the ultimate ghost story and
I
the
think
ultimate
that was
Christmas ghost story.
1866 too. Okay,
And
so
One of
I
his
found
later-
out he
later
was
stuff.
actually in a terrible train accident that inspired this story. That
Wow.
he
Oh,
almost
wow.
could have been
Interesting.
killed. It was, a really bad. And I guess that was something that happened a lot back in the day.
so out of the 70s episodes of A Ghost Story for Christmas, Lawrence Gordon Clark directed the 7 from 71 to 77.
Hmm.
And then in 78, a man named Derek Lister directed The Ice House. And that's not an M.R. James story either. It says it's John Bowen wrote the script. So anyway.
Well, I have a question for you. The show that we did a few weeks back, does it have any relationship to these? I mean, because it felt like it was a Christmas ghost. I mean, it was a Christmas
It was.
ghost story that played at Christmas time.
I thought it was part of this series, but there is a 1970. There's another one in this. So
I
maybe
wonder what.
one of our listeners can clue us in, because I tried to find that. Because I swear we said that when we did the episode.
Well, that's what I was recalling. Is this series came up during our discussion of that.
It did not take the place of whatever other one was published from this, or that was aired that same year. So,
and that picture,
maybe it was a companion to kind of thing. But
well, maybe the picture at the top is quite haunting and scary.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that his eyes are covered, which is again kind of like the old prophet, right? With the, they usually have a bandage over, and you take the bandage off, and their eyes are all gone,
sewn together. Or,
yeah.
well,
So it's like, is he trying to tell himself? You know what I mean?
oh, did you guys think the woman in the lower picture there? I thought she was a bride. Was that?
Yeah,
I thought she was a bride.
Okay.
I think they made mention of it.
And why didn't get what happened there? She just fell off.
She fell off
She just fell off. Flopped there dead on the ground, and these guys, they stop the train. These guys get off. The whole time, the signalman is standing there watching them. They come and get her and carry her up and put her in the thing. Nobody ever says a word to him. Just really eerie stuff. So anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Could be because he was recalling it. And that's just how, that's why it's got that dreamlike quality to it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Anything, Doc?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
By the time you're watching this, Christmas is over, but I hope you had a Merry Christmas.
I don't know how the British got on this habit of ghost stories and for Christmas time, and
well,
probably a
Christmas tale is a
big spoonful of spotted dick. But hey,
and don't they kind of still do that with Doctor Who? Doesn't Doctor Who have a? Aren't the? I mean, the ones I've watched have always had like a more supernatural bend to them than the usual Doctor Who nonsense.
Well,
shenanigans.
So the other ones are, let me see if I can find a list here. Come on. All right. So the first one in 71 is The Stalls of Barchester. And I probably said that wrong. It's probably Barchester or something. M.R. James.
Worcestershire. Bars of Worcestershire.
72 is A Warning to the Curious, also by M.R. James. And then we just discussed Lost Hearts in 73. 1974 was The Treasure of Abbot Thomas, and I watched that one. I thought that was pretty good, by M.R. James. 75 is The Ash Tree, by M.R. James, and that one was pretty good. Then The Signalman, which
not to be confused with The Ash Tree by Chad Hunt,
in 76, and then the last two, Stigma, is not by M.R. James. It's by Clive Exton. And then The Ice House by John Bowen. I watched Stigma, and I thought that was pretty good. So anyway, all of these, including Whistle and I'll Come to You, are on Shudder right now. And I discovered that all the 9 of them are on these BBC released Blu-rays. So you've got to have a player that'll play Region B2.
I think there's versions like on YouTube where Christopher Lee is hosting the beginning of them.
Well,
is it the same shows?
If it's the same shows, yeah.
They restarted it several times. I think they redid it in
it's the same. It's the same shows, but they have him at the beginning
later
introducing the shows.
And when I look up, if you search IMDb for Whistle and I'll Come to You, there's 6 or 7 different versions. So who knows? Maybe the one I picked wasn't even the one people were recommending, but I thought it went well with this whole idea of a ghost story for Christmas. So I hope everybody enjoys that. It's not our traditional thing, but I just felt like we should do something for Christmas, and yay.
No, it was a fun choice. It's interesting to do things different. 2 out of 3 registered really well.
So they did another one in 2005, another version of Whistle and I'll Come to You.
Really?
For 2010. They're pretty sporadic. That 2005, 2006, 2010, 2013, 2018. So yeah. Anyway, a ghost story for Christmas. And the Blu-rays are called Ghost Tales for Christmas, I believe. Anyway, yay! I dig it.
Yeah.
They creeped me out while I was watching them. So now we have some feedback. Correct?
Yay, feedback.
Yay, feedback.
Somewhere.
Tons of feedback.
Woohoo, feedback. Hey, there was no taglines on this garbage.
Yeah, I was gonna do the intro and the out, just do the.
Yep, that was your Christmas gift.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thanks, guys. This is the best Christmas gift ever.
All right, first feedback for episode. I love this. People are going back. Episode 120, The Beast Must Die, from Red Willow 79, S Chippers 94.
Episode 120. We're doing 231. That's half our
That's
episode.
Like 4 years ago. That's like 4 years ago.
Oh my gosh. Very cool.
Who want? Bill, you want to take that one?
All right. Red Willow 79, S Chippers 94. I'm amazed that there's that many Red Willow S Chippers that you had to add those numbers at the end. Yeah. I love this movie. The lead is fantastic in this. Love how he plays the character. And I did not guess correctly. Totally disagree that any part of this movie is dull or boring. I just loved every second.
All right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so this was the guess the
werewolf.
Oh my god, what was the break called? Was it just a werewolf break? What was the break called, Dad?
I'm trying to remember. It had a special.
It was guess the werewolf. I can't remember what the break was called.
Because they did. They had that little werewolf face come up.
Yeah.
Every movie should have that.
Oh my god.
The lead I think she's talking about is Calvin Lockhart, or he. I shouldn't decide. Or Peter Cushing, or I don't know who all. Charles Gray, Anton Diffring. I mean, it had a.
Could it be Chad Hunt or Jeff Mohr?
It was called it was called the Werewolf Break. So yeah, you guys get good memories. Okay, thanks. Red Willow. And then from a new follower, Grue Believer, episode 125, Dr. Phibes rises again from, I would say, Berliner Zero or Berlinero. Chad?
Okay. For Dr. Phibes rises again, Berliner Zero says, fantastic reviews.
I like this.
So this is clearly not Jerry Chandler using a suit on him.
This is the anti-Chandler. The anti-Chandler strike.
These are all these are great. These are great Christmas presents to us. So
yeah, these are stocking stuffers for us.
Episode 137, Brides of Dracula, from Berliner Zero. Doctor.
All right. Berliner Zero. We're just gonna change the name all the time. Thanks for these great reviews. You are welcome, and I'm glad you're enjoying them all the way back to 125. That's so awesome. And 120.
So I was calling him Berliner because I'm that old that
You know what a Berliner is?
JFK did that speech. Ich bin ein Berliner. And,
But I was told by a German person that the way he pronounced Berliner is like a pastry or something.
That wouldn't surprise me.
So he was basically, I am a donut, but they clapped because it's he's the
a cream-filled donut.
Everybody cheered. So
they cheered. This guy's got nuclear weapons. Cheer for God's sake.
I'm a donut.
I don't know if that's true.
And a cream-filled donut.
Now I'm going to have to look that up.
I'm a donut hole. Mm.
Oh. Wow.
Episode 175, Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde. Berliner Zero. Bill.
Berliner says, they looked alike. Perfect casting. True.
They did.
They looked alike. Yeah, it was.
Episode 181, The Brotherhood of Satan. Okay. A different person from...
Rent-a-Brain.
Yeah, Rent-a-Brain X. Rent-a-Brain. Well, that's why Chad's getting to read this one.
For anybody looking this film up, make sure to stipulate that it is the 1971 film, because otherwise you're going to end up on a Satanist website.
Yikes. Yeah, you don't want to
you got to be careful. Look at what happened with the Wicked dolls where...
Oh, stop.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know this story.
Oh, you don't know? Oh, so a movie came out. You may have heard about it.
Wicked. With the Wicked,
And they put on the action figures, the little Wicked dolls, hey kids, if you want more of this, go to, and they gave a email address. I won't say it out loud, but it contains
a URL, a site.
Wicked, and they left out a few really essential words in this email address. So they went to Wicked Pictures, which is a maker of fine adult entertainment, yes. And I'm sure even the opening page is traumatizing. So
I have that beat.
They recalled all those dolls, and if you're lucky enough, if you were like so obsessed that you ran off and bought those things the day they hit the market, you have a valuable collector's item.
What'd you say, Chad?
I have people that used to Google me when I did comic books. Yeah. They would Google me, and the first name that comes up is Chad Hunt from the UK, who is a gay porn star. So I usually come back with, I was young and I needed the money.
Yeah, when did you go to the
UK? Before I went into comics, I had to pay the bills.
Speaking of spotted dick.
Yeah.
Well, that's you remember like back in the day when whitehouse.com didn't take you to White House?
Yes, I had to be very careful at school on that one.
Is it whitehouse.gov or is there a whitehouse.com?
It was whitehouse.gov is where you wanted to go.
Yeah, whitehouse.com takes you to
someplace else.
Someplace else.
It'll recruit.
All right. So be sure to Google the Brotherhood of Satan, add the year 1971 after it. Episode 188, The Satanic Rites of Dracula, again from Berliner. Where are we at, Doc?
I think it's me. Yep. Berliner says, Berliner Zero actually says, my favorite channel. I like Berliner.
He or she, whichever.
He's got good taste.
Episode 203, Blood from the Mummy's Tomb. Bill from Berliner Zero.
Another three-worder. Adore this movie. This person well understands that brevity is the soul of wit.
Oh my God.
Episode 207, Scream and Scream Again from Berliner Zero.
Me again?
Yeah, I guess.
Michael was in James Bond for Your Eyes Only. Thanks for the great reviews.
Whoa, hey, Berliner, settle down here. That's practically a novel right there.
It was. He must have heard us do a Jerry Chandler comment. Wait a minute. I'm looking. Oh, Michael Gothard. Okie dokie. All right. Thanks again. And now, episode 229. We're actually in the same quarter of the year. Equinox from Jose.
Jose Luis says,
Herrera Lepron. But
Thank you.
Jose, we all know who Jose is.
Yeah.
You know,
never seen this one, but I've heard a lot about it, including from you folks here. I think the Criterion release is beckoning.
Good choice.
and in fact, he ordered it.
Ah,
That's the one Criterion release I own. I actually own this one.
Wow.
Yay. You don't own Kiss Me Deadly, Doc? I'm shocked.
or Fury of the Wolfman.
229 Equinox from Travis McDonald, 6576. Bill.
Excellent episode. So much valuable information about a forgotten and influential horror film.
Pretty
Equinox was a film I first saw as a youngster in the VHS days, renting it under the title of The Beast. It was refreshing to see it when I did, as I was finding most of the slasher films that dominated at the time boring and played out. Thanks for a great episode here and all the interesting tidbits here. All the best. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and thanks to Jeff Farley for all the interesting tidbits.
For sure.
Yeah. He had met and become friends with almost everybody involved in making this movie, I think.
Wow. Cool.
Equinox, episode 229 from Gregory Crosby. Chad.
Gregory says, fantastic episode, crew, on one of my very favorite horror films. He doesn't talk like this. I'm just
Harumph.
wishing he did.
Rumph.
Equinox might be the greatest triumph of creativity over a very low budget, with one surprisingly effective stop-motion monster after another, and the added bonus that it's actually pretty creepy. It lingers in the mind far longer than you'd think it would. It really is the original of the Evil Dead, and a double feature of Equinox and Raimi's near homage would make a perfect double feature for Drive-In Heaven. Great to hear the backstory of this from Jeff Farley. I appreciate that DOH will from time to time revisit films that have already been covered. Kudos to all.
Nice.
Thanks,
I like that.
Gregory.
Yeah. And we got some more comments like that. Thanks, Gregory. Chad just talks like that because you're a poet. So he just assumes.
Yes, and that's the voice that I hear when you read your poetry.
All right. Also on Equinox from Robert Baker.
That me?
That'd be you.
Robert Baker says, I really like this movie. It's one I've heard about for years in horror books and magazines, but was always a hard one to find. Then finally it was released by a Criterion Collection years ago. I bought it, glad to finally be able to see it. And I really like how both versions of the film were offered. The extras were good too. I think double dips on the show are fine, depending on the quality of the movie, especially if it was a whole different crew that covered it. So I don't mind the revisits at all, if everyone wants to cover something again.
And it wasn't really a whole different crew, but we had a key person with information, Jeff Farley.
Yes. And
so thanks to everybody. Thanks to Robert, Gregory, Travis, Jose, Berliner. Please let us know exactly where that comes from and how we should be saying it. Rent a Brain and Red Willow 79. And I don't know if it's S Chippers or Shippers. Shippers. 94. Thank you all. We really appreciate it. Leave comments on the Gruesome Magazine YouTube channel under the podcast, or you can send feedback to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com.
Do it now.
And be sure to share with your friends. You know, I mean, like Berliner's like going, wow, this is my favorite podcast. How do we get the word out? You know, we need people that like this stuff. You know, a weird thing happened to me this week. This will be a fairly quick story. This won't be at all like whistle and I'll come to you. No, the conversations you get in. I had 2 conversations this week. You know, I had problems with my internet a week ago, and I spent a bunch of time with the tech after our podcast, and they started talking about horror movies. And then this week, my mother-in-law is in a senior facility, and they switched their television from Mediacom to DirecTV. And so I had to call Mediacom and cancel. She was paying a little extra for the sports package. She likes her sports. And I called up this tech and somehow or another we got talking about download speeds. And I said I had just switched and we do these video podcasts. So it was really nice to have a more bandwidth. Oh, really? You're a content creator? And I'm like, Jesus, I never thought of it that way before. Next thing I know, we're talking horror movies, and this guy, I think I got him to come listen because he started telling me about Eli Roth and what's that movie that Green Inferno is made after, and I'm like, oh yeah, Cannibal Holocaust, and oh yeah, hey, did you see this other movie? Oh yeah, this one. So we talked. He took care of me in like 5 minutes, and we talked for 30 minutes.
Funny.
Cool.
When they called me later for a rating, I gave him a good rating. Very good rating.
Now you're an influencer.
I think
I was gonna say.
as far as horror fans go, I feel like we're spread out too far. Between each other. But I know when we get there, because you know what I mean. Location wise, we're kind of. Because I don't know about you guys, but I can't just walk out on the street and start talking horror with somebody that'll lock me up.
You're right.
You have to wait until you get to a convention, or you have to wait till you get somewhere, something like that, to talk to people of the same that like the same thing. It's not like Beanie Babies or something like that, where everybody, I know Beanie Babies, blah 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 blah. But if you go out and say, hey guys, have you seen Terrifier 3 where he saws the girl in half? Okay, let's
you don't talk about
5150.
You're right. I think you're right. And also for us, it's the you got to have somebody who's really into the details and wants to spend an hour and a half. They're either driving, or we've had several people talk about drive time, or if they're at work and they can play it while they're doing their work and listen, that kind of thing. We're not for everybody, but geez.
And of course, a lot of us, you can always come to a convention where some of us might be doing panels.
Yeah. Oh,
Bill. Especially Bill. Bill does
next year's Dragon Con. I'm back for Dragon Con, so
cool. Very good.
Always love to have fans come up and say, I love your podcast. Does Chad really hate doing the taglines that much? And I'm like, nah, he loves it.
I have people write me and volunteer. I'll do the taglines for Chad if you want. They feel so sorry for him.
Yeah. Oh, did he lose a bet or something? Yeah.
He lost a lot.
If anybody, please help me.
Help me.
We should do. All right. We should do a contest for the new listeners, something like that.
They usually say stuff like, "Is Crystal as cool as she seems there?"
Yeah,
and I'm she's right over here on the same panel. And then they look over, see her, scream, and run away. And it's like, never actually talked to a girl before, have we?
We've had comments that said the worst part of my day is hearing. Sadly, Chad will not be joining us for this episode.
Oh no, because he won't be doing this. Oh well,
I get that a lot.
Speaking of Chad, you have the pick for our next episode. It is a film from 1978 that has John Carpenter in the mix. Everybody start guessing. No, it's not that one. Chad, what film did you choose?
The Eyes of Laura Mars.
Explain yourself.
John Carpenter wrote it.
John Carpenter wrote it. That's the only reason you want to do it?
Young Faye Dunaway.
It's been like a billion years since I've seen it. And
oh man, did you watch it like when it came out, or did you see it on HBO? Like
I saw it in the theater.
I think it was home. I was at home watching.
I feel like I watched it. I know I saw it once way back in the day, but I feel like it's HBO.
Right this minute, it's available on Prime and Tubi to stream.
Yes. I'm Chad. I'm looking forward to this.
I am too. It's been a while since I've seen it.
This is going to be
and there's another one right around that time we need to do sometime. That I think is something like someone's watching me.
Somebody's watching me.
Isn't that the title of the
Strangers watching? Or
well, it's the one that Carpenter wrote and directed. That was a TV movie.
the TV.
With Adrian Barbeau.
No. Interesting. We're not going to do Elvis? Sorry, kidding.
Sure.
All right. Well, check us out in 2 weeks, and we'll be doing The Eyes of Laura Mars, and Chad will share all his wealth of knowledge on the film.
Oh, boy.
This episode will be out on January 1st, so a little late for Christmas. Unless you're a Patreon subscriber, then you will get it.
So go get that Patreon going, guys.
Yeah. For the rest of you, see you next year.
Right, and you should check out our Patreon because we also do exclusive content for that, and we are currently doing all episodes of Kolchak the Night Stalker. And I think at this time we're down to the wire.
The penultimate episode.
Yeah, last couple episodes. So they'll all be there by the time you arrive, I imagine. Because we are gearing up to finish them by the end of the year, at least recording them. So check those out. And also, as Jeff said, leave us some comments. We'd love to hear recommendations. If you want to give us like favorites, top 10s, or just reactions to what we have to say, or you can put me in timeout. I don't care. You guys want to do it? Let us know.
Or if you want to read taglines for me.
Or my God, that would be funny. Like have pre-recorded taglines.
Yeah.
It's like when Letterman had people do the top 10.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's time to leave. Jeff, Bill, Chad, thank you for joining me. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here. Thanks.
All right. Let's say goodnight.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Gruesome Magazine.
Well,
Hello. Am I in timeout again? Hello? Can I get out of timeout? Hey!